I am going to start with 2 Timothy 4 and 6. And I kind of felt led through some of the scriptures we have, to talk a little bit today about races. About what kind of a race are we in? Because Paul, we see in the scripture that Paul apparently had a lot of acquaintance with athletics. He makes a lot of references. He uses references a lot to athletics. He uses a lot of references to fighting the fight, and finishing his race, and crown, the victor's crown, and different things that all have to do with athletics to show us that he had some kind of a familiarity with athletics. And he uses the examples a lot, and he likens our walk with God to a race. And in fact, if we start at 2 Timothy 4 and 6, he makes the statement, "For I am now ready to be offered. The time of my departure is at hand. I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day. And not to me only, but to all of them also that love his appearing." So praise God. We go back to verse 7. He makes a statement, "I fought a good fight." And you know what? There's some days when you're living for God, it feels like a battle. God reaches to us and blesses us in all things. And he really does give us life and that is just bountiful and blessings more abundantly, life more abundantly. But there's some days when it is a battle. And Paul said that. Paul made that very clear in 2 Timothy that I have fought a good fight. But he also makes the statement, "I've finished my course." And the reference to that is a race, a foot race. That he had finished his race course. He had finished the course of the race. And what we see from this, from some of the other scriptures that we're going to look at, is that we are in a race. And it's like being in a race is a very good analogy. Obviously, that's why Paul used it. And it's not a sprint. I don't know if you ever ran any races in Indian school or just racing with friends. I can run pretty fast. Still. Now, I can't run very fast for long, still. I can guarantee you that probably I would fade away pretty fast if I tried running real fast. I can make it pretty fast for a short period of time. But Paul talks about finishing his course and keeping the faith, and we see in the other scriptures that tie with this, that he makes the point that it's not whether or not I can run a fast sprint. That it is a race like a marathon race, which is 26 miles and 100 yards or something like that, 26 point something, 26.1. It is a marathon race that takes a long time, and it's a race of endurance. It's not something that's fast, and while it's nice to see that we start fast, it's great to see that we start fast, spiritually, just as it's nice to see someone start a real race, a physical race, fast. The point is that a marathon is not how fast you start. The point is starting immediately and maintaining mile after mile after mile and finishing. And very often in a marathon, it's not whether you are the fastest person in the race, it's how much endurance you have. You are running 26 miles. And they add to that, certainly they didn't have in Paul's days, they did have all the Olympics and the races and the combination races. But, you know, I think an even better example these days is the Ironman races, where you have to start with a swim across the bay, Then you end up, I guess, is the second race the bicycle? I think the second stage is then you go and ride a bicycle race in Hawaii through the lava fields of however many miles that is. It's like 50 miles or however many miles. And then when you jump off the bike and you run a marathon, a full marathon. And in that kind of a race, who's fastest anywhere just completely goes away. In that kind of a race, the question is, who can finish? And that's realistically what Paul's referring to in the races he talks about. It's nice for us to start fast. It's nice and it's wonderful if that's how you start. But it's more important that you finish, and it's more important that we maintain. So just like a runner that starts a marathon setting too fast a pace sometimes, and then if they don't have the endurance to finish, that ends up being a problem for them. There's nothing wrong with starting fast, and there's nothing wrong, and it's best to see someone living for God. Start fast, start doing everything the Word of God says that you can. But you need to make sure as you're doing these things that they're things that you can sustain, because the point is you're going to need to make it to the end. And that's what we're talking. We're not talking about not starting fast, by the way. We're just talking about making sure we can sustain it to the end. If we look at the spiritual fulfillment of that in Matthew 24 and verse 9, and we look at Matthew 24, and I'll give everyone a chance to turn there. Sorry, go skipping ahead. I want everyone to get used to having the chance to go ahead and find these on their own, because one, that's how we learn where things are in the Bible, but at the same time, it's also very handy come the day we come wandering in here and the computer's not working, or projectors are funny things, computers. So if we look at Matthew chapter 24, verse 9, we see Jesus talking about a parable. He talks about